Hey guys, today we're just going to go over that mock test that we took the other day, that quick check. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through these one by one and figure out what the answers are, and we'll just go from there. Numbers 1 through 5 were asking you to sort these words into the appropriate category of either mitosis or meiosis. And remember that mitosis deals with somatic cells because we're making those identical body cells for growth and repair and sometimes asexual reproduction. Whereas meiosis, we're making gametes to use for fertilization later on. So if we take this down the line right here, and we're going to sort these words into these two categories, we're going to start with number 1 with sperm. And sperm is a male gamete, and gametes are sex cells made of meiosis. So number 1 is B. 2 is talking about diploid cells, which are cells that have the full number of chromosomes because they have those homologous pairs, one from mom and one from dad. And those cells are made through mitosis. So diploid, or number 2, is A. 3, somatic. Somatic cells are also known as body cells, which are made through mitosis. So somatic is A. 4, egg. That is a female sex cell, or female gamete, so that's going to be made through the process of meiosis. So 4 is B. And 5 says haploid. Haploid means it has half the number of chromosomes as the original parent cell. And those are made with meiosis. So haploid is B as well. Number 6 is asking you to choose the diagram that shows the appropriate relationship between the hierarchy of genetic material. So we talked about the hierarchy of genetic material, as being nitrogen bases, make up genes, which are small sections of DNA, which coil up to make chromosomes, which are found in the nucleus, which are found in cells. So when we look at these different diagrams, we want to show something that's talking about size or the hierarchy. So A says that DNA plus chromosomes equals genes. And if we look over here, we have DNA and chromosomes. If we add those together, that doesn't equal genes. So we know that A is incorrect. C says chromosomes and genes put together make DNA. So if we look at this, chromosomes and genes, putting those together make DNA. And that's not what this hierarchy is saying either. Because remember, we're saying that genes are small sections of DNA that wind up to make chromosomes. So genes are the smallest, then DNA, then chromosomes. B is showing that genes are smaller than DNA, which are smaller than chromosomes. And that would be our correct answer. But just in case you're still confused, D is showing that DNA is at the top of the hierarchy, so there's going to be less DNA than chromosomes. And that does not match right there. There would be fewer chromosomes and DNA than genes. Number 7, Jamie inherited his height from his parents. What determines the inheritance of Jamie's height? Chloroplasts are structures in a plant cell that make it green and allow for photosynthesis to happen, so we know it can't be that. Cytoplasm is that jelly-like substance in all cells that holds the organelles. Genes are those sections of DNA that control or have the information for our traits. And a membrane is just the outside wall or the outside film for cells and nucleus. Number 8. Which statement best describes DNA's relationship to a gene and a chromosome? So this goes back to our hierarchy once again. A says a gene contains several chromosomes. Now we can stop there because does a gene contain chromosomes or do chromosomes contain genes? Chromosomes are made up of DNA which have multiple sections of genes. So we know that that is incorrect. B says a gene is a short section of DNA. And we know that to be true. So let's look at the second part. A chromosome is made from DNA. DNA is winding up to make that chromosome. So both of those statements are true. Just in case, DNA is made of chromosomes. We went off the rails there. And DNA is cooled into a chromosome. So we're good right there because we know that DNA is cooled into a chromosome. But the second part says, and a gene holds the chromosome together. And that's where we went off the rails on that one. So D is also incorrect. Number 9. A cell with 10 chromosomes undergoes meiosis. How many daughter cells were formed with how many chromosomes? So in meiosis, let's start with the parent cell with 10 chromosomes. And it creates 2 daughter cells. Actually creates 4 because we're in meiosis, not mitosis, right? So meiosis creates 4 daughter cells. And looking at this, if we start with 10 chromosomes and we're making 4 daughter cells, because this is a process of meiosis, we're making those haploid gametes. Which means that they're going to have half the amount of chromosomes as the original parent cell. So what is half of 10? 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we're looking for an answer choice that says that we have 4 daughter cells with 5 chromosomes each. And that answer is D. If you chose 5 then 4 or whatever, then you just have to be very careful with your chromosome counts, making sure that you're doing the daughter cells first and then the chromosomes. Number 10. Which of the following represents a chromatid? Remember, in interphase we have these cells with these chromosomes, and those copy in interphase to get ready for duplication. And we say that each side of that chromosome is a sister chromatid because they are identical. And that means that A, it is one strand of a copied chromosome. We know it's not a section of DNA because it's made of multiple DNA. C says the smallest unit of life, which is a cell, not a chromatid. And D says one parent organism that produces offspring. And we know that to be incorrect as well. Number 11, a cell with 30 chromosomes undergoes mitosis. How many daughter cells were formed with how many chromosomes? So once again, we start with a cell, and we're going through mitosis this time. It tells us that it has 30 chromosomes, and we're going to make 2 daughter cells through mitosis. And mitosis is making those diploid somatic cells, so it's going to produce identical cells with the exact same amount of chromosomes. With that said, we're going to produce 2 daughter cells with 30 chromosomes. So your answer is B. If you chose A, it's incorrect simply because of the chromosomes and daughter cells, the order there. So we're looking for the number of daughter cells first and then the number of chromosomes, not the other way around. Number 12, how is the structure of DNA described? We talked about this when we made our flip books. So if we draw this out, we see this twisted ladder shape, which is also known as a double helix. C. Number 13, the diagram shows 2 cells that have copied all their contents and are being separated into 2 new cells. What term describes this process? We haven't talked about cellular respiration. Genetic variation is talking about the variety or the differences among traits and genes, which that's not shown here because it's just an identical copy. So we know it's not variety. We haven't talked about photosynthesis, so the only possible option was C, mitosis. Number 14, a student listed the different life processes that depend on mitosis. What process did he list incorrectly? As we stated earlier, mitosis is used for 3 things: asexual reproduction, growth and development, and repair and healing, which covers A, B, and C. The only outlier is D, waste elimination. So mitosis has nothing to do with that waste elimination. Number 15, the diagram shows the process of reproduction observed in a hydra. Which statement best describes the process by which hydra reproduce? And if we look at this, and even if you didn't read in your textbook about the hydra, we can look at this picture and figure out what's going on. We have an adult organism, an adult hydra, which is producing a bud that is growing off of the original parent organism. And once that bud has gotten mature enough, it drops off and forms a completely independent organism. So we know that there's only one parent involved, so we know that's going to be asexual. And also we know that it's identical because it only got information from one parent. So looking at our answer choices, it says A single parent produces a genetically identical offspring. So we're good so far. But then it says by sexual reproduction. And that's where we went off the rails on that one, because sexual reproduction is not what's being shown here. B, a single parent produces a genetically identical offspring by asexual reproduction. So that one is good all the way through. But just in case, C says a single parent produces an egg and sperm. We don't see any egg and sperm up here. We don't see the process of fertilization up here. So that is completely null and void. And then D says a single parent produces an egg that develops into an offspring without being fertilized, which is a section of parthenogenesis, which is asexual reproduction. However, that's not what's being shown here either. We're just looking at budding. So your answer is B. Number 16, which diagram shows the 4 stages of mitosis labeled correctly? So we know that mitosis follows the order PMAT. So we're looking for these PMAT stages, PMAT. So we're good right here, but in the future you'll also want to make sure that your pictures line up. So if we would have had this picture for prophase, this would have been incorrect, and we would have had to keep looking for our other I'm sorry, my dog is like getting in a box over here. Stop it. Alright, so we would have to look for another answer choice there. Number 17, a student observes and makes a claim about a process that a paramecium undergoes as shown. So we don't even have to know what a paramecium is in order to answer this question. But it does give us a diagram that shows the parent paramecium is growing and dividing into 2 identical organisms. So it says which claim is supported by the process shown in the image? Is it the parent cells decrease during size during cell division? They look about the same, and honestly these drawings, unless it says drawn to scale, then don't worry about size in diagrams. B says new cells arise from pre-existing cells during cell division, which is exactly what this is showing. It says that these 2 came from this one. Pre-existing just means it was already there. C says daughter cells that form during cell division contain different cellular components than parent cells. And we see automatically that that's incorrect because it has the same components. And D says the structure of daughter cells that form during cell division is different than the structure of parent cells, and that is not true as well. Number 18, the diagram shows a yeast cell dividing to form 2 new daughter cells. Which statement is true about the mode of asexual reproduction shown by the yeast cell? A says both daughter cells will have identical genetic material to the parent cell, and we know that that is true because we're just copying that one's information. Just glancing through these, though, cell division will result in 2 daughter cells that rely on each other for survival. That's where we went off the rails there. C says each daughter cell will have more genetic information. That's incorrect. And D says cell division will result in 2 daughter cells that are different from each other, and that would only happen in meiosis with 4 daughter cells. Number 19, examine the diagram of a starfish. How does a starfish repair its lost arm? And it's not by finding a mate, it's not by decreasing in size, and it's not by absorbing energy from the sun. It's by creating new cells by mitosis. 20. Budding and binary fission are both forms of asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms. What is known about the daughter cells produced as a result of the processes? A says mitosis ensures that they are identical to one another and to the original parent cell. And we know for sure that that happens in budding and fission. Just in case, mitosis ensures that they have half the genetic information. That's incorrect. And then we never did talk about respiration, so you shouldn't have chosen C or D at all. Number 21. What is the hierarchy of genetic material from smallest to largest? So we're going for the teeniest, tiniest piece first, which would be nitrogen bases, make up genes, which are small sections of DNA, which coil up to a chromosome, which are found in the nucleus, inside the cell. So your answer is C. Number 22, the image shows a wound in the epidermal tissue of the human skin. The epidermal tissue next to the wound undergoes mitosis in order to help the healing process. Which property of mitosis is the most useful in the healing process? A says mitosis causes a cell to undergo uncontrolled division. If you selected this answer, this is mitosis. However, this uncontrolled division is indicative of cancer. And that is not good, which is not part of the normal healing process. B says mitosis produces new cells that are identical to the parent cell. And that is exactly what happens when we heal, and that is the best part of mitosis as far as healing. C says mitosis allows cells to divide into 4 cells. Mitosis only allows them to divide into 2. And D, mitosis ensures that each newly produced cell has more genetic material. No, we're keeping the same amount of genetic material. 23. A gardener cut her finger while pruning shrubs. She noticed that after 2 weeks the wound had nearly healed with just a small scar remaining. Which statement describes what has happened? A says each one of the individual cells near the wound grew in size to cover the injured part. Your cells are not growing in size to heal that wound. They are copying and duplicating to make more cells. So B says cells were transported from distant areas to the wound to cover the injured area. So we're moving cells around, and that doesn't happen either. C says the cells near the wound produce identical cells by mitosis to repair the damaged tissues, which is exactly what's going on. Just in case, D says a material was released by the injured cells that covered the wound and repaired cells. We know that's false as well. Number 24. Why is the formation of new cells important? And we've talked about this over and over again, how it allows for growth, repair, and reproduction. So A hit every one of those things. 25. The diagram shows the process of mitosis. What is the purpose of this process? Does it help the cell function efficiently? No. Does it help the cell form energy molecules? No. Does it help the cell make an exact copy of itself? Yes, and we know that that does it for growth, repair, and reproduction. Just in case, D says it helps the cell increase its genetic material, which that is incorrect. We're never increasing our genetic material. If you have any questions about this test, please send me a message on Schoology.